Welcome to the Occupational Safety Leadership Podcast, episode number 54. In today's episode, we're going to talk about management of change. This is in relation to process safety management. I think it's also something that's really important, whether you're process safety management or not. Anytime you're going to make a change, it's always good to make sure that you truly understand the long-term effects of that change, along with going back, you train the people, you have to update procedures, you have to do all that stuff then. So I think that this is something that is specifically called out in process safety management, but I do everything I can to use this just in my everyday safety world also. So episode 54, management of change. Let's get started. So we're continuing our journey on process safety management found under 29 CFR 1910.119. So in this one, the employer shall establish a management of change program, except for replacement in kind. If it's going to be the same exact pump, it's okay. Same exact motor, same exact valve, and by valve, they also mean materials of construction, all that stuff. You don't have to do it. It's only when you're going to change it. And then let's talk about the really big ones that we see out there. When you change out a chemical, hopefully you're changing out a more toxic or flammable one for one that's safer. When you're changing the technology, the equipment, any procedures, you also have to go back and how do I update procedures? How do I now train my people on the new way of doing this stuff then? And if there's going to be any change to facilities, maybe you're adding storage tanks, you're taking away storage tanks, you're going to add in a silo or a hopper someplace. So you have to sit down and look at what's going to be the long-term effects. I have to update all of my documentation. I have to update my blueprints and drawings. Most importantly, I have to also update my people, my contractors. I have to look at those um, long-term potential effects coming down the road too. Let's look at the next slide here. So the management of change procedure must address prior to the change. They're not saying that you change it and then say, well, now I worry about doing stuff, but prior to the change, you also have to sit down and talk about the technical basis for the proposed change. So some people will go back and say we have a qualified process, and so now we have an unqualified process, right? Because now we have to technically go back and make sure that all the proposed changes are even going to work, so that we end up with the same product. Impact of change on safety and health, as we talked about earlier. Hopefully, we're going from a more toxic or a flammable chemical to one that's safer. Modifications to operating procedures. We also have to talk about the necessary time period for the change also, because we want to make sure that we're ready for the change and then do the change. We don't want to do the change and then have to go back and start thinking, so what's the long-term effects? What's everything else? And then who is authorized to make these changes in the requirements out there? So anytime that somebody can find a cheaper motor or a pump or a valve, that's awesome and that's great, but it's not the same thing that you already have um, for these chemicals. Not all pipes and motors and pumps and all that are going to be chemically resistant in all facets. You have to go back and understand: is it a plastic pipe? Is it a steel pipe? Is it carbon steel? You know, all that good stuff. Then, so is there going to be a change in the operations and maintenance procedures? So, and not just training your people, but if you have contractors coming on board too. So there's a lot of places that the employees, of course, are the employees of the company, but when it comes time to do maintenance, either on a monthly or a quarterly basis, they bring a crew in to do the maintenance. And obviously, they hope that nothing breaks in the meantime, or they do small stuff until it's time for the large maintenance to happen then. And if there's going to be a change in process safety information, it's also going to trigger a new and updated process hazard analysis then. So we just can't say, yes, we changed it. We have to look at all the long-term effects. And if you're going to go back and update your process hazard analysis, it probably makes sense to do the whole thing as opposed to I updated only what is applicable, and then I'll wait another year or two and then update the rest of it then. So because it has to be done anyway, at least every 5 years. Even if nothing changes, you have to go back and verify that everything is working exactly the way it's supposed to work out there. And that is it for management of change. You can't tell now, but I'm getting up on my soapbox. I think this is a fantastic program to use in everyday safety, not just for process safety management. Episode 54 is complete. My name is Dr. David Ayers. Thank you for joining me today, and have a safe day.